Welcome today to Talking Smack with Walter Vital. I'm Walter Vital, and today I have world-renowned director and producer Yaser and Shleel. Hello, Yaser. How are you doing today? So, Yaser, what do you think about the state of movies today? I think there's a lot of basically big-budget movies that just basically have to just make a ton of money, not really to please the moviegoer like myself. What do you think about that?
Well, you said the state of movies is kind of pathetic because you mentioned that money aspect of it. Mm-hmm. They don't make money. They don't make movies for any reason but to make money, and that's kind of deteriorated from the art of cinema, originally meant to be. So,
do you think any directors nowadays actually make a movie to make a movie for a movie's sake, or do you think most of the directors are out there just to basically make that big blockbuster and just become world famous just for making blockbusters like Bruckheimer?
Well, in the state, it's kind of a tricky situation because even if you're really an artist and you're gonna pursue the art of making movies, there's gonna be too many obstacles. And because the studios are not going to finance a movie, it has to do with anything with arts or anything with the bottom line is the main concern in the very beginning. So you don't have that freedom. Even when you go to independent filmmakings, look at Sundance. It started to be independent just for the indies films, and now studios dominating all these productions.
There's a small loophole with that Sundance Film Festival, whereas a studio can actually finance up to 80% of one of those quote-unquote independent
40%.
40?
Yeah, 40%.
Either way, but still, that totally takes away from the independent culture or the independent idea of it, because if a studio is involved with it, it's not really.
It's back to the domination of the studio. They always play with the books, and they change all these figures. So you could end up financing a movie by a studio without you putting any money in it, and back to circle one again.
Yeah, there you go. So what would you say to someone who wants to make a movie, like a short film? What would you suggest to them if, in order to gain, say, backing for a movie or basically financial support for the film?
I think it's fortunately nowadays make a film without any financial backing from anybody because of the technology and the things you could do on a digital camera and on your home computer. You could do. You remember last Monday we did the show, and a new book came out. It's a $30 book, film school, and it's fascinating how much access any person interested in this field could do, with a home camera and your PC. It's just fascinating. Maybe you can't sell that film, but he could show you skills, and you could show what you could do. You could show what you could do, so people will hire you to do what you like to do.
So speaking of digital, a lot of people, go on and on about digital and the DV format, digital video, and a lot of people like it because of its cost-cutting ability. You save a lot of money by using a DV format. What do you say to people that really don't believe in the DV format and really think that film should only be done on film, on a 35 millimeter camera or 16 or 8 or whatever the format may be?
I think it's, as I just mentioned, it's a mean for you to pursue what you like to do. It's not the end, but it's a format. You could present yourself, you could present your ability and your talent, just like when you enter a film festival. Most films go to the film festival, especially in those independent film festivals. They are not the ultimate project that you could market. You could enter Hollywood or any big market for that matter. But it's only like your resume to the industry where you could be exposed to producers and directors and studios, you know.
So basically use it as a medium to
Exactly,
get your ideas
yeah,
across.
yeah.
So don't worry so much about what format, what
Yeah,
exactly you use.
do the best you could do in that particular format, but at the same time, this is only going to introduce you to a better financing, bigger financing, and better equipment and stuff like that. It's just you transforming your, you know, you showing what you could do.
Definitely. So you hear that, people? It doesn't matter what you use because talent will always come through, no matter what the format. So, so what do you think about some of the I guess some of the Japanese films that have been coming over that have been remade recently? Ringu came out last year, remade by Hollywood into The Ring, and it was. I've seen both, and I basically think it was almost a shot-for-shot remake, with some exceptions. You know, they just pumped up some of the gore. I don't know if you've seen either ones.
It always reminds me with that when people say it is new under the sun. It's a classic in movie making. You know, the masters Kurosawa and David Lean and even Eisenstein. You know, those movies are being made over and over. There's no new skills. The technology is overwhelming, and in most movies you don't see a story, you don't see a human touch to it.
Yeah.
The technology is overwhelming to everything, and it'll take over. You know, just it's a 2-hour thrill, and that's it. You take away anything home from it. You don't remember in the long run.
All the emphasis seems to be on technology.
You usually, you know,
Star Wars, for example.
if you watch the classic, it's you are interacting with it, telling a story, telling a human story. It's just it will stay with you forever.
Yeah, that's what I think is lacking today in films, that you really don't have any, like you said, any human element to it or any human touch to it, because it's like we mentioned earlier, it's just a means for a studio to just, you know, bank 100, 200, 300 million dollars, you know. And what's sad is a lot of the movies just follow a simple format. There's always a story that you've already seen like 5 times before. There's always like
it's the commercial format. You have to follow it in order to make money in Hollywood. Yeah, definitely.
You know, I think somebody mentioned to me that there's basically 13 or 12 or 13 formats of making a movie. The only differences are the actors and sometimes the details, and you know.
Yeah, and pursuing this point, you know, the sequels. This is exactly why they follow the formula. They follow the formula to extreme. You know, they make the movie over and over, and they just, because the first one was a success, they just assume it's gonna
Continue with the subject of the sequels and the formulaic format. A lot of times these sequels are, like you said, they're formulaic, and recently, and within the last few years, something that wasn't true earlier, like say back in the 90s and 80s, sequels are actually making as much money, and in some cases more money than the original. Do you think this is due to actually better writing, or just a studio's effort to actually put some more resources into a sequel, basically the franchise now, which seems to be the big thing in Hollywood?
You know, there's many aspects to a success of a film. Definitely, the studio take advantage of a film making, making a lot of money, so they won't pursue that idea. Besides, at certain time, the mood of the people and the country and political situation and the social issues and all this, you know, if somebody could figure out all these things, you know, he will be making successful movies all the time. But it's a matter of a little bit of luck and a lot of hard work, definitely. You know, you plan for it, but not always all this planning doesn't work all the time.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of times we have, if it's a bad movie, it's just a bad movie.
Yeah.
It comes out. No. So What do you think are, moving on to another subject, writing a script, what do you think for someone starting out, what do you think are some good elements for someone to put into their script so that it gets noticed, basically to tell a good story? What do you think are some good elements a writer should include?
Number one, especially of somebody who's starting, is originality. Originality, it should be number one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can't go imitate, other scripts and other movies and expect anything. The originality that's when you bring something new, and that's when probably the people notice it more, and it will give something. It's just because a lot of movies is rehash of old movies, and I think the originality is the most important, and your experience is fatal to it. It could be because that's what you have unique to your script, is your experience, and that's just like an actor, just like a director or producer. The originality and that new experience you bring into it. That's probably.
So what do you think of writers when they say that they try to write, like you said, an original script, but it gets turned down by some major studios? What do you say to them when they come up with a wholly original idea, but it's not right? Would you tell them to just keep trying to persevere in their efforts to become
yes, definitely.
writer?
Yeah, you keep trying, but for an original idea, you could probably produce it yourself. It's if you could afford to do it on a low budget, and just because they refused it, that does not mean it's a bad idea or a bad script. Just because somebody is not interested in a particular genre, or they don't see it as a money making, it does not make it not feasible for you to make it on a low budget.
So don't be turned away if a studio or a high-profile company doesn't see it as a hugely profitable.
Yeah, definitely not, because a lot of scripts being rejected, and somebody else made them and made a lot of money, and they become classics.
True.
It happens
So
all the
basically
time.
stick with your idea and persevere, get it done. Now let's move on to the independent filmmaker. For an independent person, or producer or director, assembling a crew. When assembling a crew, what is it that you look for? Say you have a very limited budget, but just like everyone else wants to do, how do you maximize what you have with a small budget? What do you look for in a crew, and who you start with?
Well, first of all, you start, and networking is essential, and you could find a lot of mailing email list. People say they want a job. A lot of people willing to volunteer in the beginning to do anything, for credit and for experience. So you could take advantage of that. Here you have to balance between, you can't go afford to bring technical people who could, making a lot of money, because they are not going to sacrifice. They're going to not give you their times. So you need a little bit of competent people with a little bit of working, teamwork. You could accomplish a lot from people.
So what positions would you recommend that you bring in these, I guess, green people or inexperienced people, but very willing people? Where would you place them on your set?
Basically, the director had to be a competent person, and the cinematographer, and the producer, and those three main positions, and everything else you could work with people who just started in the business. Just if they know the basic, that would be fine.
You mentioned a cinematographer. As far as a cinematographer, what do you look for in a cinematographer? What kind of experience and what kind of questions do you ask when you're looking for a cinematographer?
As a cinematography concern, it's pretty essential to a film, because beside the point, it will translate the director vision of the film, but it will give it that touch of it's cinema is a visual art. You know, it has to be, you know, it should not bring attention to itself, but on the other hand, it should support the vision of the director, which telling a story. When the cinematography is just right, it will be easier for people to accept it.
Mm-hmm.
It will just, I mean, translate even the emotion or whatever you have in there to say. The cinematography is that essential medium to it. It's as good as, you know, as important as sound and in words, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So when you're looking for reels, just find someone who's able to convey your idea.
Exactly.
And who's able to,
who has
basically
understanding of that, you know. Most, you know, besides, you need to find, you know, a different genre has different director, different cinematographer, different, you know. You can go ask Sidney Pollack to just do an action film, for example, you know.
It's just not going to work.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, that's the way he probably could do it, but his mind on a different genre. He would not even touch it.
Yeah. So let's continue on with this point. Here we have in LA, we have a lot of film schools. We have LA and more notably USC film schools. And recently, I was lucky enough to work on a commercial not too long, and I heard a story of one of the film students who was in the third year of a master's program, and the person was very talented who could direct, but had absolutely no idea as to how to act on a working set. What would you say to someone who's in film school and who's just starting out to actually get some paying work as to how to conduct themselves and how to basically behave on a set? What advice would you give them that's not available to them in a classroom setting?
I mean, it's surprising for somebody who's in USC and don't have that working understanding of the motion picture. Especially for a director. It should diversify. It should understand everything about movie making. He should not be specialized in every aspect of the filmmaking, but he should have the understanding of every aspect of it. The greatest example of this, I always say, the Moscow Film Institute. When you want to go study directing, you study acting and theater. He studied drama literally before you even get exposed to the camera. So you have a complete understanding of the acting aspect of it. How could you direct somebody if you don't understand acting?
Yeah.
And the same thing, you know, it's just that's why most school, it's, I mean, if you want to classify them in a certain way, it's like some of them is specialized in theories and studies of the motion picture, and others are more like hand-on. And you have to decide what you want to do before you go to school. You need to understand what you're going to be doing. Either you're going to be teaching, or either you're going to be, you know, directing.
So have a clear-cut idea of what you're going to do.
So that, you know, because most school, which production schools, will help you to find all this experience before even you graduate. That's why when you go to USC, when you graduate, you made it.
You made it.
You made it before you graduate.
Yes, you've made it. So what would you say to someone who hasn't been to a prestigious film school like USC, like you'd mentioned earlier in the show? We done a show where there was the subject was the $30 film school. Obviously, the person who wrote that, the director, hadn't been to a very prestigious film school. He was actually a high school dropout. Do you think is essential to someone getting into the film industry?
It's an added bonus, but I mean, the way technology is going and the information, the access to information, to information anybody could do, could learn a lot, very close to what you learn in school. But there's always that networking, you get from university, especially from prestigious university. You get exposed to people in the industry and who has a lot of faith in this particular school, because they support it to start with. They give scholarship and they encourage people to learn the craft according to their understanding of it. So that's the added bonus of the school. But you could do a lot you can't afford to this particular high end of it.
Thank you for that point. As they're telling me that we have a call.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you make a movie with a 16mm camera and you want to distribute it in the theaters, how would you go about doing that?
Well, from what I understand, you really go to you try to find a distributor that's willing to take a chance on your film. It also depends on what kind of film you have. If you have like a small independent film with no studio backing or no big names and nobody of note involved, it's going to be obviously more difficult for you. What would you, recommend to them?
First of all, before you shoot the movie, if you see the potential, just start with the script and with your crew and with your actors and make a package, make a presentation. Make a presentation, and if you want to shoot it on 16, make sure you shoot it on Super 16, because this would be a lot technically. You'll have a lot better quality to blow it up to 35mm if it has the potential of being distributed. So you need to study all this thing before you shoot it.
Yeah, before you shoot it.
Technically, with more visa, to blow it up.
Make sure that is compatible, and that's something.
Because you get a bigger frame, and when you blow it, still maintain a better picture.
But how would they go about distributing it to or getting it distributed to a movie theater? Would they just submitting it to, say, film festivals?
That's the best outlet for any beginner filmmakers is the film festival, because it's almost impossible to be noticed anywhere outside the film festival, and it will give you the biggest exposure. And all kind of studios, that's where they scout their talents. A lot of distributors, that's what they get a lot of movies, and it's a huge, it's becoming, you see what happened to the Sundance Film Festival. It just, it was started like a real simple festival just for the beginner filmmakers, and now it's invaded by big studios, to scout for the talent, movies, and everything else for that.
What do you think about the newly minted Los Angeles Film Festival, which had its first festival this year in LA? What do you think about that festival? Were you?
I think it's any film festival would be a great service to all people who are interested in this field. But the main thing is the financial backing and the organization. A lot of film festivals has a lot of potential, and they would provide a great service to a lot of people, but probably either the financial or the organizational aspects of it doesn't live up to the idea.
Really, really. So if someone had a small film, and would you say just to find their local film festival or the one nearest to them and just submit it there, or would you say just stick with that one, or would you say for them to just submit it to as many festivals?
No, definitely submit it to as many festivals as possible. Even when you start making the movie, you should take into consideration the budget of submitting the film to as many film festivals as you can, because the more exposure, it's destined somebody's gonna like that film.
It's going to be noticed at some point.
Somebody is going to identify with the idea. Some people like movies for their personal taste, You know, it doesn't have to be, you know.
For we only have a short time left in the show. What is the one piece of advice you would like to share with the beginning filmmaker or the, budding director?
It's the ultimate advice everybody gives, you know, is just do it. You know, just do it. I mean, you can't wait until you know everything to make a movie, you know. So the ultimate example is Orson Welles. He made Citizen Kane when he was like about 22 years old.
Really?
He didn't know anything about making movies. And after that movie, he never made a successful movie as that. You know, just do it.
And on that note, I want to thank you today, Mr.
You're
Shleel, for being on our
welcome.
show today, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.